Have you been wondering how some podcasters can stay so consistent with their content? I know for me, I publish 2 episodes a week and I'm able to keep that up only when I use this secret weapon that I'm going to share with you today. So let's get right to it. Hey everybody, Krystal here, and today I want to talk about my podcast calendar. I feel like this is my secret weapon, and it is like what I keep in my back pocket in order to stay consistent with my podcast, because I went from publishing 1 episode a week to all of a sudden having 2 episodes a week, and it felt like a lot. But the only way that I can keep up and stay consistent and not miss a single week is with having a podcast calendar. And I get asked a lot, well, how do you even develop this? Is it some complicated system? Like, is this gonna take me so much time in order to do this? My answer to you and to everyone else is no. It is not complicated. And actually, I'm gonna show you 4 steps that you can take in order to have a successful podcast calendar. So the first thing that I need you to do is come up with content ideas. I need you to have some podcast ideas already in your head, either from your audience. I actually have a ton of podcast episodes that you can find here, but I'm going to link below this video that are going to help you dust off those cobwebs. If you're saying, Krystal, I can't come up with any content. Nope. You don't have that excuse anymore. I want you to go check these out because they will help you really start developing your podcast content, because you can't have a podcast calendar if you don't have any podcast ideas. So that is step number 1, get some podcast ideas. The second thing that you're going to need is to date a calendar. Now, I realize everyone does this differently. I have my Google Calendar, I actually have a paper planner, and I do things within my Google Sheets too. So it's gonna look different for different people, but wherever you keep a record of your calendar, or you wanna keep your podcast calendar, then do what works for you. But you do need a dated calendar. That way you know when you're gonna publish podcast episodes and when you're going to publish these specific ones. Like, you're gonna have all these ideas and then you gotta put them in the date. So if, for example, I use Google Sheets for my podcast calendar, the reason why is because my Google Calendar has everything. It's like my dog has to go to the vet, my kid has a dentist appointment, my husband's gonna be out of town for work, or I need to go to the grocery store, right? Like, it has all the things that's like daily life. So my podcast calendar is separate. I don't want anybody going in there messing it up. And if I just need to look at a quick glance when I sit down to record, I can see everything. Like, there's not, my son has a school play. It's like, it's none of that. Like, I can just concentrate on my podcast content. So you need to have a dated calendar. And then you can probably already guess this, but the third thing you need to do is fill in the dates of that calendar with podcast ideas, right? So we have all of these ideas and you're like, okay, Krystal, I'm excited. I have so much content. I cannot wait to share it. But where do I start? Which ones do I put first? How do I make this work? And I see a lot of my clients and students get really caught up in this one. It's almost like a roadblock. They just, like, a wall goes up and they freeze because they have all of this content. But once they put it on a calendar, it feels real. And that is the point. That is how you stay consistent. When you can actually see on the calendar, it's almost like you're being held to a deadline. Someone is holding you accountable, and that someone is you. And your audience expects for you to show up every single week, every time you put out a brand new episode. And when you put it actually on a calendar, it's holding you accountable. That's the reason why I want you to do this. I want you to have that content on a calendar, hold yourself accountable, because that is the only way for you to be consistent. So take those ideas and start filling in all the dates for your podcast calendar. So I want you to tell me in the comments below how often you would like to keep your podcast calendar. For me, I try to plan at least a quarter at a time. Now, I know that may sound like, oh my gosh, like that's so much information. So if that feels overwhelming to you, then just try to plan 1 month. 1 month at a time, and just take all of those dates and fill them in with your podcast content. But tell me in the comments below how big your podcast calendar is going to be. Are you going to keep up with it every month, every quarter? What are you going to do? Tell me in the comments below. Okay, let's get back to it. And the fourth thing that I want to share with you today, and in my opinion, this is what makes keeping a podcast calendar so much fun, is once you get a new idea, you just shift everything down. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, like this idea came up, or all of a sudden I have this opportunity to interview this amazing guest, what do I do now? You just push everything down. Now you have even more ideas. So if someone comes up with something in, let's say, an online community somewhere, they ask an awesome question and you're like, I have to address this now. That's fantastic. This isn't meant to be the end all be all of your content. It's just supposed to be your guidelines, okay? It's not a hard rule that you can't change. You can always switch up your podcast calendar. If you realize, oh, I really need to talk about this first before I talk about this, great, just change it up. I just want you to have a baseline for where your podcast is going in order for you to stay consistent with your show. So I hope you've been inspired to create your own podcast calendar if you don't already have one, or if you have one, I hope that this kind of relieves some of that stress. If you're feeling a lot of pressure to do this on this date and this time in this certain way, just take a deep breath, guys. Take a deep breath. All we need to do is hold ourselves accountable and show up consistently for our audience. That is what is most important. Show up, add value, and keep going every single week. So if you found this video valuable, hit that thumbs up, make sure you subscribe below, and come back every single Friday as we put out brand new podcasting videos. Check out these other videos right here that we've already put out, and make sure that you sign up for the free 5-day Create Your Podcast Bootcamp. And remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.